Hi, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this presentation and for signing up as a WLL tutor. This program wouldn't be possible without all of you, so your participation is greatly appreciated. Also, this presentation will be available to you all later through our website.
So here, this is a brief summary of our agenda. First, we'll be discussing who we are, what GUS does as an organization, and what tutoring with WLL specifically entails. We will also cover cultural awareness and inclusion practices to ensure that your group feels comfortable with one another. After that, we will move on to GUS policies and we'll finish up with review and time for questions.
So first, let's start with who we are as an organization.
GUTS, or Greater University Tutoring Services, is a student organization that began in 1974 and works to provide students with free tutoring, volunteer and peer tutoring opportunities, and leadership opportunities through student staff. Our team, which is comprised of both students and professional full-time staff members, is divided into academic, language, and study support services. WLL falls under the language category. If you're interested in any other tutoring opportunities with GUTS, make sure to check out our website at guts.wisc.edu.
This is the WLL coordinating team for spring 2023. My name is Fiona and I use the pronouns she, her, hers. I'm currently a senior studying psychology and linguistics, and this is my second year as a WLL coordinator.
My name is Vivian and I use pronouns she, her, hers. I'm currently a junior studying sociology and communication arts, and this is also my second year as a WLL coordinator. We both oversee matching and running the WLL email, so feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions or concerns. If you have questions or concerns, here's how you can contact us. We prefer you email us at the WLL email address since we check this during our office hours, but you can also email us separately at our individual Gmail accounts. If you want to talk to someone at GUS other than us, you can contact our supervisor, Shruti. She would definitely be willing to help with anything you need, especially if you have any issues regarding discrimination or harassment. You can also talk to us or other GUT staff members in person at our office at 333 East Campus Mall in the Student Activity Center. Our office is in room 3111 down the hallway off to the left of the help desk.
Our office hours haven't been decided yet, so they aren't in this video, but as soon as they're finalized, we'll make sure to update it on the tutor handbook that everyone will have access to. Until then, feel free to email the WLL email whenever you have a question or concern, or set up a virtual meeting with us, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Now we'll move on to tutoring with WLL.
In order to ensure that groups are meeting, we ask that you fill out a weekly report. In case you weren't able to meet with your group, please fill out the report anyway to show that the session was canceled. Feel free to bookmark this form and use the last 5 minutes of your tutoring session to fill out this document. Specifically, if you're interested in letters of recommendation and/or volunteer hours, we need to refer to these reports, so make sure to fill them out. In case you lose the email with this report, you can find it on the WLL website.
This contract covers information like when you plan. This is the tutor duty contract, and this covers information like when you plan on meeting with your group, where your best forms of communication are, and includes other pieces of information that will be helpful for the rest of the semester. This tutor duty contract also goes over GUTS policies, so if you have any questions or concerns, you can refer to this contract. It will be sent out to your group matching email, but it will also be on the website. Make sure to return this contract to us within 2 weeks of your first meeting. We will use this document as a way to double check that groups have met and understand GUTS policies and expectations.
Now, as we move on to tutoring specifically, it's important to recognize this program involves an exchange. Language tutoring should be a give and take relationship with both tutors and tutees getting something out of the experience. Tutors can gain leadership and teaching skills, build relationships at UW, and gain other skills as well. Both tutors and tutees should be fully engaged in this exchange, bring their time and effort. As you start meeting with groups and begin tutoring, we ask that you ask yourself why you became a tutor to reflect on what you're expecting to gain from this program.
Although all members of WLL are engaged in tutoring, all their sessions look differently regarding how they are run. Overall, all sessions should be focused on conversation practices. If students want to go over specific topics from their language studies or want additional practice with other forms of language production, like reading, writing, or listening, you aren't required to spend your entire session going over these things. You aren't expected to act as their personal language teacher, so keep that in mind. However, you still should personalize your session to your tutees and their goals. WLL doesn't require a certain format for sessions, so please discuss with your group members what will be most beneficial in terms of the structure of your meetings. Tutoring can also be more than just conversational practices. Sometimes it's nice to do more than just talk, so feel free to look at the tutor handbook and the different tutoring ideas we have compiled. We also have a lesson planning guide if you're interested. It's also important that you come to your sessions with enthusiasm and ready to participate. It's no fun to work with someone who doesn't seem like they want to be there, so please try and maintain some sort of excitement for what you're doing. Finally, we recommend you understand the limits to your language knowledge. Regardless of whether you are a fluent or proficient speaker of the language you are tutoring, you aren't expected to know everything. It's totally fine to look things up and come back to certain topics the next week you meet.
Here's a list of things we suggest you do with your group during your first meeting. First, prepare a list of questions for your group members, going over names, level of proficiency, goals for the semester, and when members would be available to meet, if the time from your matching email isn't the most convenient. You should also talk to your group members about how they would like to be corrected, if they'd like to be corrected. Also, ask your tutees if there are any accommodations they need to attend your group tutoring sessions. It's also important to find out if there are any topics that your group members would prefer not discussing. We recommend staying away from particularly controversial topics, especially in your first couple of sessions. That being said, many tutees are fine with and even interested in these topics, so they don't need to be completely avoided if your group wants to discuss them. Finally, please go over the handbooks that your group is all aware of GUTS's policies. At the end, please fill out the Google Form contract to show us that you've met your group members and are aware of our policies.
In our program, we have tutors who make very strict lesson plans for each session, and we also have tutors who simply come and have a conversation with their tutees. How you run your sessions should be dependent on your tutees' goals and styles of learning. So be sure to discuss with your group how your sessions should be run. Ultimately, it is your tutees' responsibility to plan your sessions out and decide what you're going to work on during your sessions. You aren't taking their classes, and tutees know what they need best, so keep that in mind. Make sure you're communicating and having them set their goals and schedule for the semester so you know how to plan your part. In the end, it's conversational practice, so if tutors want to help with grammar or things like that, they can, but it's definitely not required. On these slides are some examples of tutoring sessions that have been done in the past. So feel free to use these as inspiration if your group is interested in doing something a little different from just sitting at a union and chatting.
In case you are looking for more support for your tutoring sessions, we have compiled a list of resources which might be useful for you to look at. These resources are available on our website on the WLL page, so feel free to check them out whenever you want.
Tutoring can seem like a very low stakes environment for tutors as highly proficient speakers of your language, but it might come with unique challenges as the semester progresses. Here are three situations which are fairly common in language tutoring and might need to be addressed during a session. In this first situation, your group members might might stop speaking in a targeted language or in general for a variety of reasons. Usually, students are frustrated that they aren't picking up what's been said or they don't know how to share their thoughts in the language. In this situation, it's totally fine to stop and do something else, giving your group members time to calm down. Later, when students are more comfortable again, you can try coming back to the previous topic, asking them what they were having trouble with and trying to help them through it. If the topic continues to be an issue, feel free to move on and change the topic. For the next scenario, if your tutor asks you a very specific question that you do not know how to explain, feel free to do some research. We offer language-specific resources that might help, but there's also plenty of information on the internet for you to reference. Whether you are searching together or you're searching for it individually after the session, use this opportunity to increase both you and your tutor's understanding. Finally, although many participants in our program are currently enrolled in language courses, tutors are not required to help with classwork. We encourage groups to discuss questions they might have had from their classes, but please do not complete any assignments for your group members. Hints are fine, but tutors should never complete a student's homework, and we discourage editing entire papers for them.
If you want to conduct online tutoring, you can run your sessions through one of these three platforms. However, in order to comply with FERPA regulations around the protection of student information, you can only use a university-approved platform such as the ones above. If anyone is interested in extra training in any of these platforms, feel free to reach out to us to set up an individual training session with us. If none of these platforms work for you and your group needs to meet online, let us know what alternative platform you plan on using.
Now we're going to discuss cultural awareness and inclusion practices within your tutoring sessions.
WLL is a program that works to connect people from various backgrounds and cultures, so it is important to recognize that there is a large amount of diversity within our tutoring groups. Although this volume of diverse cultures provides a great opportunity for learning, it can also lead to some culture clashes between tutors and 2Ds. Keeping this in mind, we've included this section to help create safe and comfortable environments for 2Ds while tutoring.
In general, it is important to meet people where they are and correct your expectations to match the level that your group members are operating at. You can achieve this by listening, observing, and connecting to your tutees during your tutoring sessions. You should also work to make your group members comfortable and get as much out of the experience as possible. This comfortable environment can be created by frequently checking in with your group to assess comprehension, allowing breaks, using inclusive language, and minding personal space when meeting. As we mentioned before, tutoring is an exchange, so we just ask that you try and make sure your tutees are receiving as much benefit as you are. Finally, if you're having any questions about accommodating your group members, feel free to email us.
Now we're going to move into cultural awareness.
Here is a short video illustrating the idea of implicit bias.
What is implicit bias? Implicit bias is an attitude someone has, either positive or negative, without being aware of it. They're developed over a lifetime of exposure from other people and the media, and usually, these assumptions drive people's actions. These unconscious assumptions are often about race, gender, age, sexual orientation, and religion. An example? In one study, a group of doctors said they didn't have a bias toward people of color, but 2/3 were found to have an implicit bias against Black people and Latinos. This bias showed up in how the doctor communicated with the patient and whether the doctor showed concern for the patient. And this bias affected the care these patients received. In some cases, doctors recommended different treatment plans based on the patient's race or gender, which can impact health outcomes for those patients. We may be unaware of our own biases, but we need to work on recognizing and changing them to have a more equitable society. What is implicit?
Now we're just going to review some of the ideas from the video. First, implicit bias is defined as mental associations based on race, gender, and other social categories that may lead to discrimination without intent or possibly awareness. We specifically want to emphasize this form of bias operates unconsciously, so it's not the same as explicit bias, which can be exhibited through overt, open discrimination, like using racial slurs or refusing service. Even though someone believes that they aren't biased as it goes against their values, chances are they probably have many implicit biases which are deeply ingrained in their way of thinking.
Although implicit biases occur unconsciously and may seem like less of a threat than explicit biases, they can still affect your actions and words. So it's important to recognize them and combat them to make your tutoring sessions more comfortable for all members. First, it's important to know that replacing stereotypes with non-stereotyped responses take practice. It is by no means an easy or quick process. Doing this requires seeing each individual as unique from their category by obtaining relevant information regarding who they are as individuals. Our minds tend to fill in missing data with stereotyped information, so getting to know your group members would counteract this process. We also recommend that you increase opportunities for contact by deliberately engaging in authentic relationships with people in different social groups. It's also helpful to perceive variability within social groups, since every group contains a variety of traits. Finally, we want to remind you believing that you are unbiased is not beneficial. Everyone is biased in some way, so acting like you aren't can actually lead to more stereotype-based judgments. It's also counterproductive to suppress stereotypes by claiming you're colorblind or genderblind or anything like that. Consciously avoiding thinking about stereotypes can actually create rebound effects, causing an increase in the application of bias. However, if you just accept the proposition that we all have bias without striving to reduce it, stereotyping can increase because we have normalized harmful behavior.
Another key part to building cultural awareness is looking out for microaggressions. These are statements, actions, or incidents in which people, either intentionally or unintentionally, discriminate against people based upon their marginalized group membership. Although these might not seem harmful, they can damage a person's self-esteem and trust in you. Be constantly vigilant in your words and action during this cultural exchange. We've included some examples of microaggressions which might occur during tutoring, including using references and jokes that not all group members are aware of, mispronouncing names, and treating people differently based on their gender.
If you witness someone in your group using microaggressions against someone else in your group, there are plenty of ways for you to respond. If you prefer addressing this issue immediately, feel free to interrupt the behavior and call attention to microaggression. We have outlined some ways that you can do this, but feel free to utilize whatever method is most appropriate for the situation. If you would prefer a less confrontational approach, you can always talk with the person who used the microaggression after the session. If you feel uncomfortable or believe that this is a pretty major issue, feel free to reach out to us or a senior language coordinator.
There's also a possibility that you might be on the receiving end of microaggressions. Again, you can respond in a confrontational or non-confrontational way, depending on what you are comfortable with. We've outlined some methods on this slide, but feel free to address it in whatever way you feel is appropriate.
Here we have two discussion questions, but since this is an asynchronous session, we ask that you think about these questions to better understand how to implement cultural awareness.
This is our last section of the training. Thank you for hanging in until now.
Like most organizations, GUTS have no tolerance for sexual harassment and discrimination. You can find these policies and other GUTS policies within the tutor handbook. Also, if there were any instances where these policies were violated, feel free to reach out to us.
After we have seen that you completed the post-training Google form, we will send you an email matching you with your group members. If you're interested in reviewing these slides or looking at other WLL resources, feel free to check out the WLL website where links to these resources are available. After you receive your matching email, reach out to your group members to establish a time to meet. And finally, at your first meeting, make sure to set your goals and your regular meeting time and platform. That meeting is when you should complete the Tutor 2D contract and begin to fill out the weekly log.
If you have any questions, feel free to email us at the WLL email.
Once you have finished watching this video, make sure to complete the post-training quiz, which is linked to this QR code. The point of this quiz isn't to get 100%, but it is to show us that you watched this video, checked out the handbook, and understand what GUTS expects from you. Feel free to revisit any parts of the video while taking the quiz, or even review parts of the handbook. If you don't have the time to finish the quiz right away, it will be made available on the WLL website under the Tutor Resources section.
And also, please fill out this survey to let us know how we did during this presentation and how we can improve.
Thanks for coming, and we hope to see you at a WLL social event.